successful businesses.
Mm.
There's numerous ways to do that. Like I said, you can start your own. You can buy one that already exists, or you can buy into a number of wonderful businesses throughout the world, throughout the United States.
Welcome to Get Unstuck and On Target, the weekly podcast that offers senior leaders insights and strategies to not only lead with competence and vision, but also to achieve groundbreaking results. I'm your host, Mike O'Neill. I coach top-level executives on the power of ethical leadership to forge teams to be as united as they are effective. In each episode, join me for insightful conversations with leaders just like you, providing practical advice to help you get unstuck and propel you and your company forward. Let's get started. Have you ever noticed how the right perspective can transform a problem into an opportunity? Today's conversation explores this powerful truth through the lens of both investing and leadership. You'll meet Glen Starr, a Texas-based financial advisor who approaches complex decisions with remarkable clarity and common sense. What caught my attention wasn't just his financial wisdom, but his brilliant analogy about perspective, comparing professional guidance to getting a haircut. You can't see your own head from all angles, just like leaders sometimes can't see their full situation without outside input. This really resonates with what I've observed in my years of executive coaching. Leaders often get stuck not because they lack information or capability, but because they're viewing challenges from a limited perspective. Whether you're navigating financial market volatility or you're leading organizational change, the ability to step back and consider different viewpoints can be the difference between getting stuck and moving forward. In this episode, you'll discover practical insights about resilience, decision-making, and the power of maintaining a long-term perspective, principles that apply whether you're managing investments or leading teams. I'm Mike O'Neill, and this is Get Unstuck and On Target. Joining me is Glen Starr, founder of Starr Financial. Glen's journey from chemical engineering to financial planning, it's a powerful story of resilience and reinvention. After 12 years in oil field services, an industry downturn, well, it forced him to pivot his career. Despite significant personal and professional challenges, Glen successfully transitioned his problem-solving skills and technical expertise into helping others achieve financial security. Today, we're going to explore Glen's approach to common sense investing, drawing from his unique perspective of combining engineering precision with practical financial wisdom. Welcome, Glen.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
For those who are looking, you're on camera and you've got what I suspect is something that everybody knows you by. You've got a good old cowboy hat. Let's see, Conroe, Texas, is that where you're speaking from?
Conroe, Texas, north of high prices in Houston.
Well, that's kind of fitting because, Glen, we've had an opportunity to speak actually at some length. I found you just easy to speak with. And I just thought that your common sense approach is something that our listeners would benefit from. I introduced you as someone who got an engineering degree, but you experienced setbacks. And those setbacks kind of led to a career pivot. How long have you been doing investing advice?
So I've been advising clients for over 32 years now. Having started out in a way that I didn't anticipate, I was having much difficulty to find a real job. And a friend of mine that I was talking with was in this business, and we talked, and just through some diligent effort and with the clarity of hindsight, I guess that determination came through, and here I am.
Glen, you've been doing this for a long time, 3 decades plus. What's the biggest myth about financial planning that you find that you have to debunk with your clients?
I find that, Mike, we as an industry and even our society focuses on prices when it comes to their investments. And in my opinion, prices only matter twice: when you buy something or when you sell something. Any time in between those 2 points in time, price is irrelevant.
Hmm. Now, I understood what you just said, but can you kind of put that in perspective? Why is price not relevant unless you're buying or selling?
Well, because when you own something, you've exchanged your money to own whatever it is that you own. So I try to use analogies and when I'm talking to clients, and I use this analogy for prices. So let's say you've been to the grocery store, you've bought some groceries and some dry goods, and you put them on the shelf. And a week or 2 or 3 later, you open up the newspaper and you see that the stuff that you bought that's sitting on the shelf is now on sale. Did you lose money on what you owned?
I did not.
Well, but there's an opportunity if you choose to add to what you already own. Well, you can get a better price. You're buying it. So if there is a price decline in the investment world, it really represents an opportunity, and it doesn't represent a loss of money.
Thank you for clarifying that. You mentioned the ups and downs of the market, and you've been doing this for a long time. When you have clients getting nervous, how do you help them stay kind of resilient and focused during these market downturns?
I guess that's probably been some of the largest challenges in my career, because no one wants to think they're losing money. It's an emotional thing, no doubt, but yet in our public marketplace, anytime there's ever been prices that have gone down in a well-diversified portfolio of investments, like represented by the S&P 500 index, for example, there's never been a time those prices didn't come back up and continue to go higher later on. So sometimes it's best just to buckle up and sit tight.
I'm listening to you, and there's a practical way in which you're kind of walking us through this. When you're working with clients, what is it that prompts people to pick up the phone and say, I want to talk to Glen? Anything that happens that you see oftentimes results in them seeking you out?
Well, a little bit. I listen to clients and what their goals, objectives, concerns may be. And for those clients that have existing investments, I welcome their call when there is concern. Oh my gosh, the prices are going down. I'm not going to have time to wait this out, am I? Well, unless you know something I don't, maybe I think you probably will based on what I do know. And so I've had clients tell me, particularly those who were kind of real concerned in the beginning of our relationship, eventually not call me when prices go down. Inevitably, prices go down. And so I would check in with them like, hey, are you doing okay? Is everything all right? He goes, oh, yeah. You tell me the same thing when I call, and it's always true. I've always seen the prices come back. So I figured, well, I just wouldn't bother you. I said, well, bother me anytime.
You can open up any magazine, any newspaper, and you can open up the internet. go to your browser, it can be a little bit overwhelming about all the places that you can invest money. We're not going to talk about any specifics today, but in terms of general guidance to the folks that you're talking to, are there any kind of rules of thumbs that you have found has met most of the needs of your clients?
I sometimes get a little bit disgusted at our industry in that I believe we sometimes make it a little complex and complicated to put money to work. But in our society, and I'm going to talk about categories, there are very few places, categorically speaking, where you can invest your money. And I'm happy to describe those quickly if you'd like.
Please.
So, number one is cash and its equivalents. We all need some degree of cash. That's what we use to pay our bills with. But there's pros and cons to cash. There's risk associated with cash, like inflation eating away at what our cash will buy for us as time goes by. But we have to accept that because we must and need to have that cash. Second, you can loan your money to someone. You can loan it to your family, friends, brother-in-laws, I like to use. And you can even loan it to the government. You can loan it to municipalities or corporations. And if whomever you loan your money to are credit worthy and they'll pay you back and pay you some interest along the way, well, hey, isn't that what banks do? They make money at loaning money. So you can do the same thing through the public markets. Bonds simply represent loans. Third category is real estate. Many people who own their home have financially a lot of their net worth invested in real estate. But you can buy real estate in addition to a home. You can buy real estate in all different forms, all the way from raw land to rental houses to business strip centers, and there's even publicly available securities that focus on real estate. Real estate carries its own degree of pros and cons. Cost of ownership, taxes, and those kind of things are a little high, and liquidity in real estate is not all that high. And if you just need a little money and all you own is real estate, it's kind of hard to sell a room, isn't it?
There it is.
So the fourth category is businesses. In our world, in our capitalist society, we're all free to go start our own business. You got a good idea for a product or a service and you can make money with it, you're free to do so. Well, you can buy an existing business from somebody else. In a capital society, y'all just agree on what you're willing to sell or pay for that business, and well, you can own a business. You can own a piece of a business in the public markets too. You can own a piece of the world's largest oil company, or you can own a piece of technology stocks that you're interested in. And owning stocks is actually owning a piece of business. And if there is a fifth category, and this sums it up, I'm going to call everything else in our world the fifth category. It's precious metals, currencies, futures, commodities, derivatives, and all the things that you might hear about, but most people don't need to own those things. So that's it. 4 primary categories in our society, Mike. It's that simple.
That's helpful. I appreciate you doing that. Glenn, you have been doing this for a long time. And I suspect that a lot of your business is business that comes from referrals. Happy customers referring business to you.
That's correct.
I'm going to go back to that question that I asked earlier, but I'm going to phrase it maybe a little bit differently. And that is, people are listening to you right now. They're saying, you know what? Glenn's making sense. I now understand those categories.
Okay.
But what might prevent people from acting on that, from taking action?
Well, in some instances, people don't like the fact that prices fluctuate. And anytime you step outside of that first category of cash,
Mm-hmm.
the price of everything in our society is negotiable, does fluctuate. And in fact, price fluctuation is a necessary component of capitalism.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of price fluctuations.
Well said. Glenn, as you're thinking about what you've just shared, there's something about what you're discussing that says, this is a trust relationship I'm entering into. What have you found? We've got listening in, watching this episode. These are leaders. And what role does trust play in your work with clients?
Well, it's the foundation that my relationships are based on. It's my job to tell things like I know them. And if more information is obtained, and it will be as time goes forward, you call the proverbial spade a spade sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never hesitated to own a mistake. I've never hesitated to call it like it is.
The technology has come on so fast. It has resulted in people doing business with folks not in their same city or state, time zone, or country. That being said, I suspect that you have clients that are not down the road from you. Is that a fair assumption?
Very, very fair. And I have clients from one coast to the other coast and in multiple states. And interesting enough, 30-something years ago, we were just down the street from most of our clients. But as time's gone by, those clients, and naturally so, we work well together. And if and when they moved, we're able to continue to work together. Now, interesting, many times somebody does want to meet somebody face to face across the desk, shake their hand, and I get it. But even those that still live down the street, sometimes we do 99% of our business via telephone. Isn't that interesting?
It is. We've said that we're going to talk about common sense investing. I've thrown some questions out to you. As you know, this is an unscripted conversation. But as you prepared for our time together, what might be some things that you'd want to share that maybe hasn't come up yet?
So many times, it seems like the medium waits with bated breath on some piece of data that is going to be significant, earth-shattering, perhaps. And in the overall scheme of things, it's not. The economy is a big thing. What happens in our governments, what happens in our political parties or policies take a long time to filter through our economy. Events matter, no doubt, but for the most part, it's always something. Something always occurs that at the moment seems to be significant. But with the clarity of hindsight, we realize that it was all right. We figured it out. That's what human beings do. We figure it out.
You actually kind of leaned in when you said it takes a long time. It would seem to me that the nature of your guidance to our listeners is you need to be thinking the long game. Is that a fair assumption?
Look, the long game is more than just a few years. It's actually more than a lifetime.
Mm.
You see, significant wealth can be accumulated and can be positioned in a way that takes care of future generations. And in some instances, that's someone's goal. In other instances, it's, well, I want to spend all my money until the day I die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we knew when that day was, we could plan accordingly. But since we don't, well, why don't we plan you living a long, long, long time to boot? Because I don't want to plan on somebody not living a long time, because that would precipitate a call like, okay, your plan ends today. Been nice knowing you. Well, that doesn't make sense, right?
Glenn, there is one question that you can anticipate, and that is, in your experience, can you think of a situation where perhaps you or a client got stuck? And when that happened, what did it take to get unstuck?
So, Mike, there's scenarios that my clients, who are just as human as anybody else, and even me, sometimes will get stuck with our perspective on some situation. And I've had clients call me up and say, hey, I'm on this particular company stock for a long, long time, and it's not doing anything. Why don't we get rid of it? Well, why don't you let me look at some other particulars? And lo and behold, I find that, well, you've owned this thing for the last 25 years, and based on your cost, the dividend alone that's being distributed to you represents a percentage of your original investment that I can't duplicate today.
Mm.
And so I've had more than one client say, well, I've never looked at it that way. And I believe that what I do, and even in your business, your job of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
it's perspective.
Yes.
I use an analogy, Mike, that I don't think what we do is complicated. It's not near as complicated as the media might make it out to be, or someone wants to make you think they're smart. Because just like I go to somebody to get a haircut, not because I can't cut my own hair, I can. I got a pair of scissors. I can reach up there, I could cut my hair. But why do I go to the professional? Well, they probably got better tools than I have. They probably have some training that I might not have. I could get that, of course. They've got experience, and I could get that too. But they've got something I cannot get. And that's a perspective, Mike.
Mm.
They see my head of hair differently than I do. Yeah. And I can't get their perspective. And I believe if there's something unique about what I do, or what a business coach like yourself does to help people, we bring a perspective that sometimes we just can't see.
I love it. Glenn, if you were to offer the most practical piece of financial wisdom to our listeners, what would that be?
Well, it's own successful businesses.
Mm.
There's numerous ways to do that. Like I said, you can start your own. You can buy one that already exists, or you can buy into a number of wonderful businesses throughout the world, throughout the United States. Companies that are going to be successful no matter what is put in front of them. Now, that's not guaranteed, of course. So you don't put all your money in one particular company either. You build a well-diversified portfolio of investments. And owning good companies gives you the ability to never outlive your money, hopefully.
Glenn, I love it. Before we wrap up, I've got a question for the leaders in the audience. And that is, why do people choose to follow your lead? Is it out of obligation, or do they truly believe in your vision? Leadership thrives on clarity, confidence, and decisive action. It's not just about holding authority. It's about making tough decisions that drive real bottom line results while keeping the team focused and motivated. As an executive coach, I help leaders develop their decision-making capabilities and build the resilience needed to guide their teams through those challenges. At Bench Builders, we focus on transforming good leaders into great ones. So I invite you to lead in a way that draws people to your vision, not because they have to, but because they believe in your ability to guide them forward. Visit bench-builders.com to learn more about how we can support your leadership journey. Glenn, as expected, your insights have been invaluable. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, I really appreciate it. And thank you for the work you do. I've already benefited from some of your other guests helping me to establish a practice of waking up every morning and before the day is out, defining and documenting what am I grateful for today. This morning didn't start out good with a computer problem before I left, but when I walked outside into the clear, cool, calm weather, I immediately thought, well, I'm grateful for this, but I didn't start that way because of the problem that I had just with computer software. So thank you for the work you do. I've benefited.
Well, I have too. That's the thing I have enjoyed most about hosting a podcast. Now, Glenn, I think you're referring to a recent guest, David George Brooke, known as That Gratitude Guy.
Yeah.
If folks want to reach out to you and they want to learn more about common sense investing, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So my website is Starr with 2 R's, financial.net. There's abundant information there that I'm happy to share. Somebody wants to contact me through that website, I'm happy to help them understand, provide any guidance they're looking for. Just have a conversation, common sense conversation.
We're going to include that contact information in the show notes. Thank you, Glenn. And I also want to ask that we also give a gratitude to the subscribers. If it wasn't for the subscribers, this podcast would not be around. But I hope today's conversation with Glenn has provided you with some insights to help you get unstuck and on target. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Get Unstuck and On Target. I hope you've gained insights to help you lead with confidence and drive your organization forward. Remember, at Bench Builders, we're committed to your success, your leadership excellence, and your strategic growth. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, please leave a review, rate, and subscribe to keep up with our latest episodes. This show really grows when listeners like you share it with others. Who do you know who needs to hear what we talked about today? Until next time, I encourage you to stay focused on the target and continue to break new ground on your leadership path.